Good morning, students. Welcome to the digital classroom with Holy Heart Schools. Today we are going to continue with our chapter Structure of the Earth. In today's video, we will be learning about the different layers of the Earth. While going to this topic, we will be learning some new words like number 1, crust, the solid outermost layer of the Earth. Number 2, mantle, the layer of the Earth below the crust. Number 3, core, the innermost part of the Earth. Number 4, Sear, the upper part of the Earth composed of rocks rich in silica and aluminium. Number 5, Sima, the lower part of the Earth's crust composed of rocks rich in silica and magnesium. Number 6, Naife, the Earth's core which is composed of nickel and iron. Number 7, Seismology, the science of earthquake, or we can also say the study of earthquake. Number 7, Ionosphere, the upper part of the mantle up to a depth of 300 to 400 km. Here the rocks behave as both plastic solid and elastic solid. Number 8, Mohorovic discontinuity, the boundary between the crust of the earth and the mantle. And number 9, Gutenberg discontinuity, the boundary between mantle and the core. So students, now let's start with the topic of the day. Please open up your books on chapter number 4, page number 33, topic layers of the earth. But before we start with today's topic, let's have a brief of this topic. Before knowing or learning about the interior of the earth, let's get a background how earth was formed. It happened 4.5 billion years ago. The earth then was nothing like what it is today. The earth started off as a round ball of hot molten material revolving around the sun. As the liquid slowly cools down, the denser material that forms the earth's solidified part sank to the center of the earth, where they formed a metallic core. At the same time, the lighter, lesser denser material were pushed out towards the surface, where they formed the earth's crust. This led to the formation of earth with the several different layers of material, very much like an onion. These layers are arranged on one top of the another. The outermost layer is a solid crust. Next is a highly viscous layer called the mantle. The lower mantle is the outer core of the earth. The solid inner core forms the innermost layer of the earth. So now students, let's start with our reading of the topic today. The layers of the earth. On the basis of the study of earthquake waves are the waves generated by the earthquake varying density. Density means the mass of a substance per unit volume, and other physical and chemical properties of the rocks. The earth can be divided into three concentric. Concentric means donating circles which share the same center, the crust, the mantle and the core. As we have discussed in part 1 of this chapter, that how these indirect sources help us in providing the accurate information about the earth's structure. This arrangement can be compared to an onion with its layer one inside the other, as I have already told. So now let's start with its first layer or uppermost layer, that is crust. The uppermost layer over the earth's surface is called the crust. It is the thinnest of all the layers. It is about 35 km on the continental masses with a density of about 2.5 gram per cubic meter and only 5 km on the ocean floors with an average density of 3 gram per cubic meters. The main minerals constituents of the continental masses are silica and alumina. It is thus called Sear, where Si stands for silica and Al stands for alumina. The oceanic crust mainly consists of silica and magnesium. It is therefore called Sima. Si stands for silica and Ma stands for magnesium. Now let's read this part. The crust. The crust is the outermost solid part of the earth. It is also called lithosphere. Lithosphere means part of the earth covered with land or the rocky crust. The crust is relatively thin layer with an average thickness of 60 kilometers. The average radius of earth is about 6,378 kilometers. We should know this thing that crust is the thinnest layers among all. The crust comprises of two parts. The upper part is called the continental crust and the lower part is called the oceanic crust. The continental crust is the thin part of the earth's crust which forms the large land masses, whereas the oceanic crust is the thin part of the earth's crust which underlies the ocean basins. The crust is comparatively thicker under the continents than under the ocean floors. As I have already told, under the continents it is up to 35 kilometers and beneath the ocean floors it is just 5 kilometers. The crust is made up of many kinds of rocks and density of the rocks increases with the increase in the depth. As we know, the density of rocks increases slowly towards the center of the earth. The average density of the crust is less than 3 gram per cubic centimeter. The average density of earth is 5.5 gram per cubic centimeter. The main elements of the crust are silica, aluminium and magnesium. The upper continental layer is lighter, average density 2.5 gram cubic centimeter and consists of silicates and aluminium. Therefore, it is known as Cr. The lower layer is dense, average density 3 gram per cubic centimeter and consists of silicates and magnesium. Therefore, it is known as Sima. The outer crust has valuable solids and provide us with the most of the minerals. What is minerals now? Minerals are the underground wealth, or we can say the things which we get under the earth's crust, like iron, gold, silver, zinc, etc. Just beneath the earth's crust is the mantle. The mantle forms the main mass of the earth. It extends from Morovicic discontinuity up to the depth of about 2900 km. The mantle is partially molten layer and can have temperature reaching up to 4000 degrees Celsius. The upper layer of the mantle is called a stenosphere. The stenosphere is the soft layer of the earth under the lithosphere. The hot magma from a stenosphere travels to the surface of the earth and escapes as lava and volcanoes. The high temperature and pressure of overlying rocks keep the lower part of the crust and the upper part of the mantle in almost solid state. So now let's read this topic. The mantle. The mantle is a very thick layer and extends up to an average depth of about 2900 km. It lies between the crust and the core of the earth. The boundary between the crust and the mantle is called Moho or Morovicic discontinuity. The mantle is made up of dense and heavy materials such as oxygen, iron and magnesium. The average density of material in the mantle varies between 3.5 gram per cubic centimeter and 5.5 gram per cubic centimeter. The temperature of this layer ranges between 900 degrees Celsius and 2200 degrees Celsius. The temperature is quite high and the hot rocks form magma in the layer. Magma is a hot fluid or semi-fluid below the earth's crust. The pressure of the overlying layers keeping the lower part of the crust and the upper part of the mantle in almost solid state. As we know, the interior of the earth is under a tremendous pressure from the outer layers. It does not permit the rocks in the interior of the earth to reach the liquid state. So it probably acquires the property of solid due to the excess of pressure from outside layers. If cracks appear in the crust, the pressure is released and the molten matter from the inside earth tries to reach the surface through volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruptions means coming out of hot molten material through an opening called vent. The next layer we have is the core. The core is divided into the inner core and the outer core. The boundary between the mantle and the core is called the Gutenberg discontinuity. This layer is extremely hot. It has a temperature of about 5000 degrees Celsius. The core is made up of heavy metals such as nickel and iron. It is thus known as Ni, where Ni stands for nickel and Fe stands for iron. The outer layer is in the molten state, whereas inner core is firm and solid due to very high pressure. So now let's start with its reading. The core. The core lies between the mantle and is around the center of the earth. It is also called barosphere. Barosphere means the heavy interior portion of the earth within the lithosphere because it is made up of heavy metallic rocks. The boundary between the mantle and the core is called the Gutenberg discontinuity. The core is sometimes divided into the inner core and the outer core. The average diameter of the core is about 6,950 kilometers. The average core is about 2,275 kilometers thick. The core is made up of heavy metals such as nickel and iron. Thus, it is also known as Ni. Ni stands for nickel and Fe stands for iron. The average density of the core ranges between 5 gram per cubic centimeter and 13 gram per cubic centimeter. It increases towards the center of the earth, as we have already discussed that as we will go to the interior of the earth, the density is increasing. The temperature of the outer core is about 2200 degrees Celsius, while it may be high as 5000 degrees Celsius of the inner core. As we have already studied that the temperature increases at an average rate of about 1 degree Celsius for every 32 meter of depth. The outer layer is in the molten state, whereas the inner core is in firm and solid due to the very high pressure. As we know that high pressure from the outer layers does not permit the rocks in the interior of the earth to reach the liquid state. The presence of heavy metals and iron may be responsible for the earth's magnetism. Magnetism means that the earth is having its own magnetic field which attracts all the things towards itself. So students, with this we are completing with our chapter. Please revise the complete chapter and do the related exercises and question answers. Thank you.